energy transition is very important for humanity. Energy transition is very important for the future of our world. Energy transition is very important for us to make sure that we save the planet. Well, if you look around the global energy landscape today, and if you have to identify one kind of major area of concern, I find the lack of conversation. Today, lack of conversation. I mean, it's a huge planet. We are roughly 8 billion people on the planet, and every single person consumes energy. But at the same time, we have seen the last few years that conversations between societies, conversations between producers of energy and consumers of energy, conversations between different countries and different blocks, and conversation, in different societies, they have actually not happening at the kind of scale and pace that is required. So unless you have more honest, active, and transparent conversations between different societies and between different nations, I think it's very difficult really to build a way forward which is sustainable. How do you build a way forward which is sustainable without having honest, transparent conversations between different stakeholders and different players at the same time? So my sense is that, yes, of course, there are seminars here and conferences here and there, but the honest conversations are not happening. Conversations which, for instance, can really build a sustainable way forward are not happening. Let me give you an example of a conversation where nations come together and they want to talk about climate, and then they take some decisions with regard to energy. I mean, COP is a great initiative, and COP is a great organization, informally both ways. But at the same time, when you have to take decisions, let's say on coal or on oil or on natural gas, you need platforms which is basically a gathering of experts and policymakers of energy, not of climate. If you bring together climate scientists in one room, they are the best equipped to take a decision on climate, putting together regulations or putting together some kind of, governance, or putting together some kind of, policy infrastructure at the international level. But when it comes to energy, I think it's important that we bring together people who are in the energy sector, producers, consumers, technology providers, policymakers, and so on and so forth. But there is no such platform. There is no international platform, let's say, where all the energy players come together on a regular basis and they take a view of the entire planet. They take a view of all nations on the planet. They take a view of all societies on the planet. They take a view of all the consumers and producers on the planet. There is no such international platform. There are many organizations, we all know that. And again, I find that, the kind of conversations that we need, honest, transparent, and at the same time supported and aided by the people who know these areas very well. That's what we need. If you look at this global debate on energy transition, which started several years ago, there were many conversations going on, multiple conversations happening on energy transition. In some areas, the countries, the rich countries and the poor countries, or the developing countries, the global north, the global south, they would agree. There were places they would not, agree. And there were many places where, for instance, they say, all right, we agree with you, global south will say, we agree with you 70%, and global north will say, no, we agree with you 20%. Now there were conversations more about the 10% gap. This picture has changed completely. Energy transition used to be kind of a top agenda. It's no longer on the top. It's probably somewhere 7th or 8th or 9th or whatever. Who is talking about energy transition in a structured way, in a sensible way, or in a way where they say, all right, we are meeting in order to build a way forward or to find a solution? Conversations on energy transition have collapsed. Who is going to talk about just energy transition? Just energy transition basically broadly means energy transition which is going to be beneficial for everybody, all nations, all societies, all individuals, all families. When you talk with the energy minister of a country X or country Y, whether in the global north or in the global south, what is the major concern? Energy transition? No. Concern is how can I mobilize sufficient energy for my economy, for my growth, for sustaining my growth, for the families, for the individuals, for transport, for ships, for power plants. That's the concern. Energy transition is, I wouldn't be pessimistic and call it a dead debate, but I would put it differently. I'll say energy transition is very important for humanity. Energy transition is very important for the future of our world. Energy transition is very important for us to make sure that we save the planet. But unfortunately, today, as we talk, no serious conversations are happening on energy transition. There is no progress, but we need to bring it to the table. If we love our planet, if we care about our future generation, we need to bring energy transition back to the high table, back to the global high table. When we look at the world today, the world is fragmented. We are roughly 8 billion people on the planet. Women, men, children, all included. I'm not counting other creatures like animals. They also need energy. They're part of this planet. But when it comes to the world as a whole, we are roughly 8 billion people. Out of 8 billion, roughly about 1.5, 1.6 billion people are in the global north, or the so-called rich world. And there are about 6.4 billion people roughly in the global south. Now, in such a scenario, when you look at it, there are roughly 4 billion energy poor on the planet. 4 billion women, men and children don't have access to sufficient amount of energy. They have limited access. Some of them actually have no access. For instance, we still have roughly 700 million people without electricity. Imagine. Without electricity, 700 million. Actual number may be more. But when it comes to energy poverty, there are 4 billion people in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, in my part of the world where I live, New Delhi. I mean, if you look at Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, roughly 1 billion people in this part of the world alone. Then you have Africa. 1.5 billion people over there. Many of them are energy poor. In total, about 4 billion energy poor on the planet. Imagine, practically 50% of the world population is below energy poverty line. They're energy poor. Now, in such a situation, what should be the priority? Priority has to be to mobilize energy for them. But if you weaponize energy, you politicize energy to the extent that, the poor people are denied energy. How do you go forward? How do you eradicate energy poverty on the planet? In such a situation, when you look at it, what do we need to do more? Innovation, technology, or empowering people, or finance and all that? I think what we need is to create a kind of more just energy order on the planet. An energy order which is basically based on two things. Number one, affordability, and number two, energy justice. How do we do that? If there could be some breakthrough in terms of innovation or in terms of technology, that let's say an energy poor in Africa or in Africa, Latin America or in Asia somewhere, the consumer doesn't need to import energy from country X or country Y. Or the consumer is not dependent on a big company or the government for his or her energy needs. Can we have that kind of breakthrough in technology? Can we have that kind of innovation? Can we have that kind of financial system where this is allowed to happen? So what we need everything. We need more innovation. We need breakthroughs in technologies. We need breakthroughs in terms of energy finance. We need breakthroughs in terms of energy policies are formulated. We need breakthroughs in terms of how energy policy infrastructure at the national level and an international level are structured and protected at the same time and monitored and regulated. So we need everything. My concern is we are not working in that direction. We are not working in that direction. So to answer this question, what do we need? Innovation and technology, we need everything. We need just energy transition. But before that, in the world of 2025 that we are in, where we see the countries have stopped talking with each other, in that kind of world, to build a kind of system, especially the energy system, global energy system, a global energy order, I think it's a tall order. But at the same time, I'm a born optimist. I think we need to move in that direction. And I think what is important is the countries which are blessed with wisdom and experience, and countries which also care about the planet. It's important we come together. Countries like India, countries like United Arab Emirates, countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Indonesia, or Brazil, or Nigeria, or South Africa, countries like Norway, countries like Sweden, Germany for that matter, Japan. At least we can come together and we start kind of, moving in that direction. What we need today when it comes to energy transition, energy security, eradication of energy poverty, what we need today is a fresh start. A fresh start is needed. Everybody is talking about what's happening here and there, and those who are privileged, those who have access to any amount of energy and all that, they don't have time for that, most of them. So what we need is all these like-minded countries, like-minded societies to come together and start moving in that direction to make sure that every person has access to affordable energy, sustainable energy. We cannot build a sustainable order in the world without first making sure that every person has access to affordable energy. I'm very confident. I've traveled all around the world and I interact with all people from different civilizations, different societies, that majority of people on the planet are very good people with beautiful ideas. So I think if we come together and we start moving in the right direction, we'll build a sustainable energy order for everybody on the planet. As I said, that we are energy deficit country and hugely energy deficit. There is no other economy of India's size. We are one of the largest economies in the world. We are the fourth largest economy on the planet. But China is not so much dependent on imports as we are. And all other major economies are not that heavily dependent on energy imports as we are. Yet, we see that how we are addressing the issue of energy poverty, energy affordability. Let me give you two examples. If you see what India has done the last 5-7 years, especially in terms of renewable energy, we have set a world record. If you look at data 10 years ago, our installed capacity for solar power was so small that we were always used to feel a bit embarrassed when we talked about it. Today we are a global leader. Similarly, until very recently, 7-8 years ago, when you traveled around the country and visited a kitchen where, traditionally you find women cooking food, they were always using fuel which was A, unhealthy, B, not eco-friendly, and 3, expensive. So as part of the whole strategy, now you go to any kitchen in the country, across the country, in record 7 years, every household has access now to LPG, cooking gas. This cooking gas from practically very little exposure to every household across the country. It's a massive thing. It's almost a revolution. Look at, for instance, energy conservation. You go to any house today and we use LED bulbs as part of, energy. Every single household, every single street, every single office, you see this LED bulb now. It's an LED revolution as we call it. LPG cylinder, cooking gas is LPG revolution. But still, we have large number of people who don't have access to as much energy as they need. Not because energy is not available, it's mainly because they don't have purchasing power. Now the question is that, what, for instance, other countries, I wouldn't say learn, but get inspiration from or whatever from India. I think the main thing is that the focus, government focus on energy poverty eradication. So I think as we build a new way forward, the most important thing, I think, is when we go for new dialogues, when we go for a new start, we de-weaponize energy as a whole. Energy is too important, too crucial for survival of the humankind that you can't play politics with it. Energy is life. Energy is survival. Energy is future. I think to question or to deny energy to every person, any person, to deny energy to any society, to deny energy to any country is like denying water, denying air. We need some empathy for those who don't have access to energy or sufficient amount of energy or affordable energy. We need more compassion for the people. You know, if you have a compassion, you have empathy for those who are deprived, who don't have access to sufficient amount of energy or affordable energy, then I think it's easy to build a way forward. At the same time, I think when we talk about energy transition, when we talk about green energy, or when we talk about climate crisis or global warming, we have to keep in mind that we cannot build a global climate order without building a global energy order first, which is based on justice. We cannot do that. How can you build a global climate order without first building a global energy order, which is based on justice and affordable energy? How can you do that? We need to build a kind of more collaborating global multilateral system, more democratic, multilateral energy system, or for that matter, even the climate system or climate order, more collaborating, more democratic, where each country, big or small, has participated and has come together willingly, happily to join it. Countries in the global south, many of them are still struggling, many of them are still very, very poor. I think we need to collaborate and see how can they also become developed societies. They also have a similar standard of living, and they have also been able to eradicate, poverty as a whole. So those dialogues are needed. So what I'm saying is that we need more honest, transparent conversation where we treat every single country participating in such conferences, in such deliberations, an honest and true collaborator. We build it together. If we really care about it, the planet, if we really want to produce the right results, it's important that we do whatever we do in a more honest manner, in a more transparent manner. The role of partnership is crucial because when you look at around the world, different societies have different, over a period of time, developed their own internal mechanisms. For instance, the way we look at the corporate world in India is not exactly the same China look at the corporate world. The way you look at corporate world in let's say in the United States, that's not the way how we look at the corporate world in India, or for that matter, many other countries in Africa. Similarly, when it comes to cooperatives, let's say for the sake of discussion, or trusteeship, the way they look at trusteeship in the Netherlands or in Norway is very different from the way, for instance, we will look at trusteeship in India. So therefore, there are some fantastic models where you can find in different parts of the world. So we need to kind of identify them where those models have delivered the best for their societies, and we need to build those kind of partnership. I said we cannot say that, look, this is only one template or two templates and all that. This is going to be multiple, this is going to be multidimensional, this is going to be kind of rainbow solution where we respect. If you have done something, you have delivered to your people, and you have those models have worked or systems have worked for the people, and they have participated to be more collaboratives, produce results on the ground. So I think we take that and see that how can we build it. So this requires more, as I said, the respect for each other. What is important is that, there are many such things maybe in Africa or in Latin America or in India or any other part of the world. So we identify them. This will happen only when we go for the a big new global churn on energy. A global churn which is kind of, based on very honest and transparent conversation. That despite all that we have done, there are still 4 billion people who are energy poor. So we need to address that. What we need is, whether you're a rich country, global north, you're global south, we all need to work together. We need to say that how can we build a way forward, which is A, eradicate energy poverty, B, bring energy transition back to the high table, and C, build a new global energy order, which is based on justice and which is based on collaboration and cooperation. Today, this is the reality. World is fragmented. There's excessive darkness all around, and we have 4 billion energy poor on the planet. What do? We need a new start. How do you do that? Have conversation.